Hello students, how are you all? Hope you all are fine. So today our topic in grammar is clauses. Now, what do you mean by the term clause? Let us see. Now, when we look at these examples given here, the friends intervened when the time was right. Now, in the above sentence, if you divide broadly into two sections, we find that the friends intervened when the time was right. Correct? Now, if you look in this example and after broadly dividing it into two sections, in each of the above sections contains a subject and a predicate of its own. They are the part of a complete sentence. Each part is therefore a clause. That means, what do we understand from this? That a clause is a group of words that contains a subject and its own predicate. Now, if you analyze the two parts of sentences again, then what we understand that the friends intervened. This sentence is complete in itself because it has subjects and a predicate also. So a clause is a group of words that contains subject and predicate of its own. Now let us see that exactly in this clauses what are we going to learn and how to bifurcate the main clause or the subordinate clause. Now we will be taking into consideration the same example only, that it does not depend upon any other part of the sentence for its complete meaning. Such part of the sentence is called as a principal or the main clause. That means a part of sentence that has got its own subject and predicate, and it is not dependent upon the other part of the sentence to give its complete meaning. It is called as the main clause or the principal clause. When you look into the second part, that is when the time was right, this part of sentence cannot stand by itself. It does not make a complete sense on its own. It is dependent on the other part of sentence for its complete meaning. Such clauses are called as dependent clauses or subordinate clauses. Now children, what do we understand here? That when a group of the words which has a subject and predicate of its own and has got complete meaning, that is the main clause, and the rest where the meaning is incomplete. For example given here, when the time was right. Now what is when the time was right? We don't know. So here the sentence is incomplete. So that is the dependent clause or the subordinate clauses. Now sentence with more than one main clause and one or more subordinate clauses are called as the complex sentences. Here we are being introduced at what do you mean by a complex sentence. It will have one main clause or one or more subordinate clauses. Okay, now here that means till here we have understood that clause is a group of words which has got subject and predicate of its own, that is known as the main clause, and the part of the sentence which does not have the complete meaning, that is known as the subordinate clause or the dependent clause. And complex sentence is sentence with one main clause and with two or more subordinate clauses, that is called as the complex sentences. So let's move ahead with the types of the dependent clause in a complex sentence. Now, till here we have understood that clause is being bifurcated in two types, independent and dependent. Independent, that is the main clause, it makes a complete sense on its own, and the dependent clause, it doesn't have a complete meaning, uh, or it cannot stand on its own. It is depending on the other clause to make a complete sentence. And dependent clause is also known as a, what it is known as, children? It is known as a dependent clause or subordinate clause. Correct, subordinate clause. So let us deal with the types of the dependent clauses. Now, dependent clauses are of the three types: the noun clause, adjective clause, and the adverb clause. Now, coming to the first example, the first type, the noun clause. Now, as the word indicates noun, now noun, as soon as we hear the word noun as a part of speech, what do we understand? Yes, the same logic is to be applied here. The noun clause, it what does it do? It is a group of words in a complex sentence with a subject and a predicate of its own and carrying out a function of the noun. It performs the function of a noun. That means, for example, I know. I know that my efforts will not be futile. Now I know. What do you know? So here it is answering what? Noun clause answers what and whom. Noun clause answers what and whom, and here it is being introduced in the sentence with the words such as what and where, that, how, whose, whether. These words can be used, but the basic thing is what? Whenever you are identifying any kind of the clause, especially you want to identify the noun clause, it will answer what and whom. That speed kills is well known. What is well known? That speed kills. That means it is answering what? It is answering what. But these are the words by which it can be introduced. For example, in this that, in this also we find that is being used for introducing of the noun clause. Now moving ahead to the second type of the clause, that is the adjective clause. Now whenever we hear the word adjective, in our mind what comes? The first thing which comes in our mind is that quality. Now when you read this example, we live in state which is renowned for its rich culture and tradition. Second example, who are kind and considerate are called human. Now in this, what we understand is that what? First of all, whenever you are bifurcating or identifying the clause from a given sentence, see to it that a sentence, first of all, is to be bifurcated into two parts. That is the main clause, and then only you can find out the subordinate clause. Now we live in state. Where do you live? You live in a state. So here this half sentence is complete. That means it is a main clause. And the rest, now rest you are supposed to find out whether it is adjective clause, noun clause or adverb clause. So here we understand what? That a group of the words in a complex sentence with a subject and predicate of its own and carrying out a function of an adjective is called as the adjective clause. It usually begins with the relative pronoun who, whom, whose, which, that, and here when is given here, when is rarely used. Usually it denotes time. Otherwise, it only begins with who, whom, whose, which, and that. Now we live in state which is renowned for its rich culture and tradition. We live in state is a main clause, which is. Now we are talking about the state. Correct, children? We are talking about the state. How is the state? State which is renowned for its rich culture and tradition. So it is specifying what? It is specifying the quality. So this is the adjective clause. Who are kind and considerate are called human. Now who are kind and considerate? We are talking about human. How are they? They are kind and considerate. Again, it is specifying the quality, but usually in the sentence, it always begins with the relative pronoun. Now coming to the third one, that is the adverb clause. Now children, what do you mean by adverb clause? An adverb clause is a group of the words in a complex sentence with a subject and a predicate of its own and carrying out a function of an adverb is defined as an adverb clause. Now, basically in all the three types of the clauses, one thing which is common is what? That all the three types of the clauses are being found in a complex sentence, correct? And here also the same logical reasoning is applied, that whenever we find in a sentence, first of all, now in this example given here, when he received the prize money, he contributed the same to the cause of the farmers. Now, when he received the prize money, we are first of all bifurcating the sentence. Then he distributed the same to the cause of the farmers. Now, from here, he till farmers, this is the main clause. Why? Because this is complete sentence. It has a subject. He. Okay, he is the subject, and then rest is the predicate. Subject and predicate of noun, so it is what is a complete sentence. And the rest is the when he received the prize money. Then what you did? So this is the subordinate clause. Now, adverb clause. Now his subordinate clause, adverb clause, there are many types are given. Adverb clause of time, place, reason, purpose, result, condition, concession, manner, comparison. These all indicate what? As we know now that there are types of the adverbs. Okay, so here also the same reasoning is being applied, that you may sit or wherever you are comfortable. So this example is of the place. Cause, because, as, since. It is stating the reason. Rani was questioned because she appeared nervous. Now purpose, so that in order the athlete tried to gain speed so that he could catch up with the other competitors. Stating the purpose. Now result, so that such that in order that in case the train moves so fast that I couldn't enter it. Result, if you don't speak the truth, your words will never be trusted. Condition, if, unless, if you don't work hard, you will never succeed in your life. Concession, although, though, even though, if. Although she did not perform well, she got the loudest applause. Now she got the loudest applause. Again, that is a main clause. From although to well, it is a concession. That is the adverb clause of concession. Manner, the teacher reacted. The teacher reacted, a complete. A teacher is subject, reacted, predicate. As I had anticipated. Comparison, then, as the accused is not as innocent as he appears to be. The accused is not, what is not? As innocent as he appears to be. Comparison. So here, as we know that the adverb has got its type, similarly in the sentence also, when we are trying to find out the adverb clause, it will, whenever it is stating time, it will begin with, or in the middle of the sentence it will be while, when, before, after, till. Place, it will specify the place. reason, because, as, since, purpose, so that, in order that, result, so that, such that, condition, if, unless you work hard, you will never score high marks. Unless you work hard, you will never succeed in your life. Such examples and concession, though, although, then the manner, then comparison. So these are the different types in the exam, or whenever you are trying to pick out the adverb clause, you have to keep all this in the mind, and then you have to answer whether it is adverb clause of time or place or reason, etc. So today we had learned about the three types of the clauses. First of all, the meaning of the clause, and then the main clause, and then dependent clause. Dependent clause, that is the subordinate clause. There are three types: noun clause, adjective clause, and adverb clause. I hope, children, that you have understood the topic very well. And now, children, you have to revise this topic and write down whatever definitions are there in your notebook. If you like my educational video, kindly like it and share it, subscribe it. Thank you, children. God bless you all.